Welcome in. This is The Metricality, where I don't argue talent, I study execution. This is Season 2, Episode 6, and today's episode starts with a blowout at Alabama and why the final margin looked the way it did. Because, unfortunately, this wasn't a surprise. It was not about effort, and it wasn't about Arkansas choosing the wrong strategy. Arkansas tried to follow the correct win path. They created early chaos. They lifted the tempo, they tried to disrupt structure. But with the normal starting five, that chaos wasn't sustainable. The win conditions were clear before the ball was tipped, and they never changed. Even when Arkansas turned it over 5 times early, Arkansas hit 1 of 6 win conditions. And when that happens on the road against a structured team, the game doesn't drift, it snaps. That's how you end up in the failure band. The model flagged pre-game, the tailspin. Not because Alabama did anything flashy, but because Arkansas gifted control early and Alabama never gave it back. So this loss isn't about talent, it's about execution and which mistakes were allowed to stack. And that brings us to what's next, because South Carolina is a very different problem, and a harsher one. Today's episode is about 2 things. What the Alabama loss actually tells us beneath the score, and what must change structurally before Arkansas steps on the floor against South Carolina. This isn't about blame. It's about alignment. Talent still isn't the question. Execution still is. Let's get into it. Let's start with a real, honest look at the Alabama loss. Final score was Alabama 86, Arkansas 55. That's a minus 31 margin. This game didn't unravel slowly. It crossed a threshold early. On the road against a structured team, the margin for chaos is razor thin. Arkansas followed the correct early strategy, but with the normal starting 5, that chaos carried cost instead of leverage. Once Alabama was allowed to settle, the game was already decided, even if the score hadn't separated yet. Arkansas didn't hit the win conditions early in the game, and once that window passed, the margin then followed. Let's talk about the win conditions, because this is where the game actually broke. There were 6 win conditions in my model. Arkansas didn't need all 6, even with the normal starting 5. They could miss 1, even 2, and still stay alive, be competitive. They didn't. Arkansas didn't hit the win conditions early in the game. The first was turnovers. With Robinson starting, my model required a plus 6 turnover margin. Arkansas didn't come close. They finished minus 3, and they had 5 turnovers in the first quarter alone. 35.7% of Arkansas's turnovers occurred in the first quarter. That's over 1/3 of all turnovers happening in the opening 10 minutes. And this matches my broader point about the game state being compromised early rather than drifting later. That's not a small miss. That's a hard fail. And on the road, that's fatal. The second was pace. Arkansas tried to push early, but the pace didn't hold. My model showed with the normal starting 5, they would not be able to hold this increased tempo. Once Alabama anchored the game into their comfort range, Arkansas was already chasing. Third was shooting stress. The model needed 1 shooter to try to hit 3 threes. Just 1. That never happened. No one made more than a single 3, which meant Alabama never felt pressure on the perimeter. And really, we just needed 1 defender to feel stress. Fourth was rim control. Alabama finished comfortably at the rim. That allowed them to stay patient, stay structured, and avoid risk. Fifth, and one quick clarification that matters here, the 5th win condition was different depending on the lineup. So for the normal starting 5, it wasn't steals, it was fouls. Specifically, free throw gap no worse than minus 4. Arkansas didn't need to win the whistle, they just couldn't let it snowball. And this is important. They actually hit this condition. Both Alabama and Arkansas finished the game with 11 fouls each. The problem wasn't the whistle. The problem was everything else stacking on top of it. And the 6th, late game position. Arkansas needed to be within 5 at the 6-minute mark of the 4th quarter. They weren't close. So when you add it up, it's 1 of 6 win conditions hit. And when that happens, especially with the normal starting 5 on the road, the outcome band changes immediately. That's not hindsight, that's model validation. Now let's talk about the starting lineup, because this is where the math changes. And this isn't a vibes conversation. It's not about who I like the most or who the coaches prefer. It is simply about data and probability, just about the numbers. Against Alabama, lineup choice reshapes the risk profile. Arkansas started the normal 5, Dees, Jones, Mayberry, Robinson, Clarkson. With that group, my model showed a very narrow survival window. The win probability drops, but more importantly, the tail risk rises sharply. With the normal 5, there was a 41% chance of a blowout outcome if early win conditions aren't hit. Not because of talent, but because of how mistakes stack. That's a tailspin. Early chaos with this group comes with a cost. They can't sustain the increased tempo required at Alabama, and they allow Alabama to settle. Live ball turnovers cluster, drive containment breaks. Once that happens, especially on the road, the game doesn't bend, it flips, and that's exactly what we saw. Arkansas tried to create early disruptions, but with the normal 5, that disruption fed Alabama instead of destabilizing them. The turnover margin never flipped. The pace never stayed elevated, and once Alabama settled, the risk distribution shifted hard toward that tailspin. This is why my model differentiates lineups. With a different starting group, the win condition thresholds change. The floor rises, the tail risk shrinks. With the normal 5, Arkansas doesn't just need things to go right, they needed everything to go right immediately. And when that doesn't happen, the tail spin risk increases. That's not hindsight. That's how this lineup profiles against this particular disciplined team on the road. Against South Carolina, the ideal starting lineup is different. It's a different team and it's at home. Now, let's talk about the margin. With the normal starting 5, my model didn't just lower Arkansas's win probability, it defined a failure band. If Arkansas hit 1 of 6 win conditions or fewer, the projected outcome was a blowout. It was Alabama by 22 to 30 or more. That wasn't a guess, that was the tail. In this game, Arkansas hit 1 of 6. They lost the turnover margin by 3 when +6 was required. They never created shooting stress, they never controlled the rim, and they never re-entered a live game state. Once those conditions stacked, my model didn't project a close loss. It projected separation, the tailspin, and it flagged a 41% risk of that outcome with this starting lineup. The final margin was 31. That's a game landing inside the exact failure band my model flagged. This wasn't a game that surprised the numbers late. It followed the risk distribution from the opening stretch onward. When the early gates don't clear, the median stops mattering. The tail does. And in this matchup on the road against a disciplined, structured team like Alabama, that tail is steep. That's not narrative, that's validation. Now, let's turn the page. Because South Carolina is a different problem. This isn't a chaos game. It's not about tempo spikes or early disruption. South Carolina wins by removing options. They don't need you to make mistakes. They will force them. The margin for error is even smaller, and the punishment is faster. So this next section isn't about what Arkansas did wrong at Alabama. It's about what has to be true for Arkansas to survive the first 10 minutes against South Carolina. Because against this opponent, there is no warm-up period. Let's get into it. Real quick, before we get into this, I want to be clear about something. I am rooting for Arkansas. And I also have a lot of respect for Dawn Staley. Not just for what she's built, but how she's built it. She is a standard setter in this sport and someone I really look up to. That respect doesn't change this analysis. It sharpens it. So now the question becomes, is there an upset path against South Carolina? The answer is yes, but it's a narrow one. This isn't a game where you can hit 4 of 6 win conditions. It requires at least 5 of 6 win conditions hit and the right starting lineup. Arkansas's upset win conditions. Arkansas has to hit all but 1, miss 2 of the first 3, and the upset path dies. The first is turnovers. Arkansas needs a +2 turnover margin. That's the biggest outlier in the model, and it's extremely rare against South Carolina. The biggest difference maker here will be removing Robinson from the starting lineup. Second is live ball control. Total live ball turnovers have to stay at 9 or fewer. It's not about forcing steals, it's about not donating possessions. Third, one shooter has to bin coverage. One player, Jones or Lawrence, has to hit 4 or more threes. Not volume shooting, stress shooting. Fourth, offensive rebounding. South Carolina has to be held to 10 or fewer offensive boards. That makes D's, Lawrence, Gallia, and Sanchez minutes critical because they are elite defensive rebounders. They're all in the 97th percentile or better for defensive rebounds. Fifth is free throws. Arkansas has to keep attempts within plus or -2. Whistle neutrality is mandatory. And 6, late game position. Arkansas has to be within 3 at the 4-minute mark. If it's 6 or more at that point, South Carolina closes calmly. If Arkansas hits 5 of 6, the win probability jumps to about 22%. If they hit 4 of 6, they still lose roughly 80% of the time. This is a needle thread upset. But this is the upset path. Now, this is where the conversation has to be honest. If the upset path fails, if they cannot execute this, and against South Carolina, that is always a real possibility because they are an elite team. The objective changes. The goal now becomes compression. This is the lowest margin loss plan. The lineup in this scenario is clear. The 5 that should be on the floor in this case should be Jones, Ware, Dees, Lawrence, and Gallia. And the purpose of that group is simple. Maximize rebounding, reduce fouls, slow the bleed. You're not trying to flip the game anymore. You're trying to prevent the avalanche. Because when Arkansas chases chaos and misses, this matchup turns into 20 plus very quickly. But if Arkansas accepts the more realistic goal, lose small, once they chase chaos and fail, if they accept the realistic goal to lose small, there's a path to keep this in single digits. That path requires discipline, not variance. Turnovers held to 12 or fewer. Pace held at 70 possessions or below. Yes, slower than Arkansas normally wants. South Carolina's rim efficiency at 55% or lower. Jones and Lawrence combining for 28 or more points. And no early foul trouble, especially for Gallia and Rodriguez. If those conditions hold, The result isn't an upset, but it is control. Competitive optics, no avalanche runs, and a game that's still intact late in the third quarter. That caps the margin in the 8-14 range instead of a blowout of plus 20 or more. And against South Carolina, that distinction matters. The final model truth. Arkansas is not built to beat South Carolina straight up, but they are capable of avoiding a blowout and keeping structure. And the starting lineup determines which version shows up. This game is decided before the tip by lineup choice. The lineup plan. Arkansas versus South Carolina. Let's talk the lineups. Because against South Carolina, this is a control problem, not a creativity problem. This matchup isn't about drawing up better plays. It's about managing risk possession by possession. South Carolina doesn't beat you with tricks. They beat you with when your lineup gives them leverage. Tier 1 lineup. This is the best lineup to start with. It's lowest chaos, lowest margin, upset capable. It is Jones, Ware, Lawrence, Dees, Rodriguez. This is the best lineup Arkansas has against South Carolina at home. Not because it raises the ceiling, but because it raises the floor. It gives Arkansas 2 real ball handlers, 2 rebounders who can finish possessions, spacing without defensive liabilities, and the lowest whistle volatility on the roster. This is the default state. Every adjustment flows from here. In-game sub-triggers. South Carolina specific. These are automatic responses, not feel-based decision. If Arkansas commits 2 turnovers in 3 possessions, or South Carolina creates back-to-back live ball pressure, we want Mayberry in, Lawrence out for a short stint. This protects possessions and keeps 2 handlers on the floor. Hard rule, never sub Robinson to settle things. That makes the problem worse. Point of attack defense triggers. If a South Carolina guard beats the first defender twice in a row, or South Carolina is initiating sets with 15 seconds repeatedly, Bates in, Ware or Lawrence out. We want 90 to 180 seconds max for this. Instructions to bait. Pick up full court. Force late initiation. Do not touch the ball offensively. Immediate exit if Bates is fouled. South Carolina starts screening off her defender. This is disruption, not a lineup shift. Bonus foul draw triggers. If Arkansas is in the bonus and the margin is 8 or fewer, Sanchez in and either Bates or Ware out. Because Sanchez is elite at drawing fouls. Usage 1-2 possessions. Curl, seal, cut, draw contact. Hard limits, no isolation, no dribble initiation, never paired with Bates. Rebounding and second chance triggers. If South Carolina gets 2 offensive rebounds in a row or Arkansas gives up paint, pick out sequences, lock D's plus Rodriguez together, sub out a small wing. This stops avalanche runs. This finishes possessions. Shooting stabilization triggers. If Jones misses 3 straight shots and South Carolina starts shrinking the floor, keep Jones in. Ensure Lawrence is on the floor. Run flare, drift, and short roll spacing. Jones' gravity still matters. Do not bench her for misses. Whistle and emotion triggers. If a ref gives an early warning or Arkansas picks up 2 quick fouls on the same player, immediate sub for that player. Stabilize with Ware and D's. This especially applies to Clarkson and Robinson. Don't let the whistle dictate the lineup. Late game hard rules, 4th quarter. If the game is within 6 at the 5-minute mark. This is the lockdown lineup. Again, if the game is within 6 at the 5-minute mark, this is who needs to be in. Jones, Ware, Lawrence, Dees, Rodriguez. No exceptions. No Bates, no Sanchez, no Robinson, no experimentation. This is possession, survival, not discovery. Emergency mode. If Arkansas is down more than +10 mid-third, only then we want Bates and Ware together. Pace spike defense, accept volatility. This is last resort chaos, not a plan. Final coaching truth here. Arkansas doesn't need better sets. They need faster decisions. These triggers prevent avalanche runs, preserve structure, and buy time to stay competitive. Now here's some rotation notes. The first sub should be quarter 1 at the 5-minute mark. Mayberry in for Ware. It protects handlers and reduces early fatigue. The second wave. Early second quarter, Gallia in for Lawrence. Have her in for at least 2 to 3 minutes. Point of attack defense, no creation burden. Lawrence returns at or before the media timeout. Hard rules. Rodriguez must be on the floor versus the South Carolina bigs. Rodriguez is the best at protecting the paint. No small ball 5. No Robinson plus Clarkson together. No single handler lineups. If Dees gets 2 fouls, short Gallia stint. Then Dees back ASAP. Tier 2 lineup. A higher ceiling, slightly higher risk. So, if Arkansas doesn't go with the recommended starting lineup, this is the next best starting lineup. It is Jones, Ware, Lawrence, Gallia, Rodriguez. And again, this is just for this game against South Carolina at home. What this does is there's a better point of attack defense, slightly weaker on the glass, usable in short stretches. Now, tier 3 here, do not start them against South Carolina. Any lineup with Robinson, any lineup with Clarkson, starting lineup with either of these two, any lineup with fewer than 2 ball handlers. These lineups spike live ball turnovers, straight line drives, whistle chaos. And against South Carolina, that's how the game blows open. This lineup plan isn't about chasing an upset. It's about keeping the game intact. And against South Carolina, structure is the only thing that keeps you alive. Now, let's talk margins. This is where the model speaks. This is where the difference between lineups becomes impossible to ignore. And again, these are not vibes. This isn't preference. This is just data. I ran over 100,000 iteration in a chaos simulation from my model, specifically for South Carolina at home. And what matters most here is not the upset percentage. It's where the game most often lands. With the best starting lineup, Jones, Ware, Lawrence, Dees, Rodriguez. With this lineup, the game compresses. Here's how the margin distribution breaks. Arkansas, by winning 1 to 4 points, shows up about 6% of the time. That's the upset path, real but narrow. And that's not including the win conditions. That's just straight out. With those starting, they can win the game 6% of the time. South Carolina winning by 1 to 5 shows up 14% of the time with this group. That's a true coin flip in fourth quarter. The most common outcome, 33%, is South Carolina by 6 to 10. That's the median game. Competitive, controlled, no avalanche. South Carolina by 11 to 17 appears 29% of the time. And that's the true blowout band. 18 plus drops to 19%. the true blowout band here is the 18 plus. It drops to 19%. That's the key. This lineup doesn't make Arkansas the favorite. It removes the extreme outcomes. The game stays intact, the clock matters, and Arkansas gives itself time. Starting lineup B, the alternative option: Jones, Ware, Lawrence, Gallia, Rodriguez. This lineup raises the defensive ceiling slightly, but it gives back some rebounding insurance. And here's what the model says. Arkansas winning drops by 1 to 4 drops to about 4%. South Carolina by 1 to 5 sits at 10%. South Carolina by 6 to 10 is 27%. But notice what changes. The 11 to 17 band rises to 31%, and the 18 plus blowout band jumps to 29%. So this lineup can work, especially if Gallia is fully healthy, which I believe she is, but the tail risk is higher. You gain defense, you lose margin protection. Now the normal starting 5, which I would recommend they not use, and I can't imagine that they would use them again. I would be very shocked if they did. But the normal starting 5 is Dees, Jones, Mayberry, Robinson, Clarkson. This is where the model is unambiguous. Arkansas winning less than 1%. Less than 1% with this starting lineup. Less than 1%. So just with the ideal starting lineup, you have a 6-fold increase of winning chances. South Carolina by 1 to 10 with this normal starting lineup, only 8%. South Carolina by 11 to 17, 22%. And here is the red flag. South Carolina by 18 or more, the blow-up shows up 68% of the time. So if they go again with a normal 5 like they did at Alabama, that tailspin is an even bigger risk against South Carolina. It goes from 41% where it was at Alabama. They still went with them. And now it's 68% of the time they are going to have a margin of 18 or more. That's not upset risk. That's early avalanche probability. With this lineup, the game is most likely functioning over by mid-second quarter, which is what happened at Alabama. What the margin actually tells us, this isn't about chasing a miracle. The best lineup doesn't make Arkansas great. It just makes the game playable. It compresses the margin. It suppresses the unwanted chaos for Arkansas. And it keeps the tail from swallowing the game. The normal 5 does the opposite. It widens the distribution. It invites early runs. And once the tail shows up, the median doesn't matter anymore. That's the difference. This isn't opinion. It is probability. And against South Carolina, margin control is the game. So that's the picture. This isn't about predicting miracles. It's about understanding risk, structure, and what actually keeps a game alive. Arkansas doesn't need to be perfect. They need to remove the mistakes that makes the margin explode. Lineups matter. Early decisions matter. And against teams like South Carolina, the difference between competing and collapsing is razor thin. I'll be back after the South Carolina game to break it all down. This is the Metricality, where I talk data, not vibes.